What is good? We're back. We've got Bet on It this week. Coming to you a day late. Had to move some things around, but we got a little Saturday morning Bet on It. Excited to be here. Jeremiah, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. Just a great Saturday. Go to Home Depot, do some man shit, then come home, watch a college football game, maybe drink a couple beers, and put some bets. Let's bet on it.
Yeah, you got your lumberjack shirt on. You ready to chop wood? Joseph, how we doing?
Go Dogs play in about 2 hours, and we have if you see me looking around, it's because we have a newly adopted cat that is running around our house right now. So I am just keeping an eye on her.
Gonna punch some stuff in on a keyboard. All right, so we got a good slate for you. I know we like to start off kind of right and wrong. So Jeremiah, lead us into kind of what you were thinking and where you were at the end of last week.
So I'm kind of formulating something, and part of this is inspiration from Joseph. On the previous show, we were talking about Jameson Williams. There was an over-under 49.5, Vikings, Lions. Lions off the bye. We love the off-the-bye plays. Shout out to Joseph talking about Luther Burden, Rondé Gadsden. We love off-the-bye plays, even for players who are in a rut, right? So Jameson Williams, I had a touchdown play, and I'm calling these the likely do and rare touchdown plays. And sometimes what I like to do, I'll do two plays for touchdown where I go likely and I'll go rare. And the rare will be like somebody like a Greg Dulcich, who I think right now is plus 700 in that price range. You would tie him with a chalk player like James Cook, and actually for anytime touchdowns, and you get good plus odds. Now, the ticket that I made, likely doing rare touchdown plays, the due part was Jameson Williams. He's due. The likely part was that Jacksonville and the Raiders game where I went likely being Ashton Janty for a touchdown. And then the somewhat rare or off, but maybe off a bye week play would be Basil Tootin. If I recall correctly, he was plus 330. So a couple dollars paid out 20. It was a good payout, fun payout on a single play, which I had. But I pieced together likely do rare, where do was JMO, likely was Janty, and a little bit of rare where you need a little spice, a little bit of a you can see it, you can tell a story. Maybe I'm coaching my bets, but it was Basil Tootin. It was plus 2,600, $5 paid me 135. So very happy about that. That was a hit that I really like. Joseph, what do you make of the JMO play, and what do you make of the idea of that story I told? Is that just random, or could I maybe have something to that?
No, I think I like the idea. I think it's fun. I think that like touchdown bets are just fun. I'm always a fan of just fun. I mean, like the whole point of doing this is just fun. I think that like again with touchdown bets, as we've discussed before, like the biggest thing that I am a big fan of like doing it when you have a mathematical reason to do it, which due is a reason to do it. There is like math behind the idea of someone is due for a touchdown, right? Like I share usually on Twitter and sometimes on Substack, like players that have like based on where they are catching the ball, where they're targeted on the field, where they are getting opportunities, you can like predict the probability that they score a touchdown based on those ideas, and then add that probability up over a period of time and say like this player is like legitimately due for a touchdown. Like they've been getting opportunity inside the 20-yard line. They've been getting opportunity inside the 10. And things as such. Like this week, like the number one player that's due for a touchdown is Travis Etienne, right? Like he has been getting very close to the goal line lately without getting those touchdowns. And so he's the number one player due for a touchdown this week.
Man, I love that. And Joseph, did you have any near hitters, misses, hits, anything that you really want to touch upon that you had in the last week?
Yeah, last week, I had a Jackson Dart bet. I published it on the Substack that was this close. In the second half, they ramped up their passing, but in the first half, they were not passing it quite as much as I want. But there was a wide open Darius Slayton running down the field in the first half for like a 50-yard touchdown. Like I'm talking like no one was within like 15 yards of him. Like he was so wide open. It's in my Coach I Was Open article. I don't know if that's out on PFF yet, but he is like no one's remotely close to him. Jackson Dart, it even kind of looks like he's looking at him, and he ends up checking it down. And Tyron Trussy just drops it anyways. So what do you do? But had he just thrown it there, Slayton on that play, and then the game played out similarly, it wouldn't have been a close bet for me. So what do you do?
Hey, and what do you do? Something to look at for bettors. If you notice, especially in fantasy football, you may notice Jackson Dart is really good for a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown and a path to 20. And we have asymmetrical upside that's there, possibly in this Bears matchup. But I want to get to a matchup, so we'll tease that a little bit. Let's go to the Rams, Joseph. Matthew Stafford on our thumbnail. We love what's going on. A lot of fantasy goodness. The 49ers are going to roll with Mac Jones. If you have Mac Jones in Dynasty, you are thrilled. The sell-off or the reap the benefits is beautiful right now if you have him. But question, Joseph. Last time these two teams played, 26-23, Thursday Night Football, Mac Jones pulls off the victory. The 49ers are triumphant. And then this week, the line is posting where the 49ers are at home. And they're 4.5-point underdogs to the Rams. So I ask you, Joseph, we got different lines that are pulled up here for what we have. But also, is there any goodness to, and I'm going to ask, how do you want to tail event this game? But also, is there anything to alternate spread for the 49ers that the public may not be looking at that we can take advantage of price-wise? And then what are the paths? Because I noticed with the Rams, you go and get Puka, you go and get Devontae Adams, tailing to the right, getting to the right where you're trying to get plus odds, you have to slide that pendulum very far. And the number might hit, but we're getting plus odds at like 80, 90, 110. You really have to pay up at the alt receiving yards, those sorts of things. So how can we find value in this game that you seem to love? But at the same time, what are good tail events plays?
Yeah, so I guess to start off on the spread, right? The Rams are what, 5.5? Is it 5.5, 6.5 at this moment?
4.5.
4.5. So the
5.5 on DK.
Yeah, so the Rams are. So one of the big fundamentals that I like looking at is Timo Risk's team tiers review on PFF, right? So he posts a team tier statistical review every week, and it is very good. It's comprehensive, and it basically shows offensive and defensive strengths for each team, and it weights recent performance higher. The Rams are the highest team in the NFL. They have been playing out of their minds at this moment. So they have like, when you combine offense and defense, they surpass every other team in the NFL. They are 3 full tiers ahead of the 49ers, right? They are in far and away, like, just when you compare the fundamentals of these two teams, they are far superior than the 49ers. Then when you look at the kind of, I guess, the nuance of this, the 49ers are bottom 3 in man coverage performance in like PFF grade and EPA per play, all the stuff like that. And they're bottom 3 in zone coverage performance. Like, so they have not been able to cover really at all. And Matt Stafford is top 3 in man coverage performance and zone coverage performance. The Rams have also shown a strong tendency towards passing the ball when they're winning and passing the ball when they're losing. They just like to pass the ball. And they have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. I mean, there's just a million different reasons to say, if they just pass the ball, which they've shown a strong tendency towards doing in pretty much any situation, I don't really know if this is going to be a close game. I think that the Rams have basically the advantage in every way, shape, and form in this game. And, talking about finding edge, the tough part is this is an instance where Vegas has like upped all of the lines, right? Like all the lines are pretty high. But I think that's where you start combining these, and you can really make something. I think one of the bets that I published on my Substack is like Matt Stafford. I think 330 is like a reasonable price for him, and you can get that at like plus 300 something. And then Puka and Devontae Adams going over 100, and then adding Kyron Williams in there to score a touchdown. He is, speaking of players due for a touchdown, he is a top 10 player for people who are due for a touchdown. He's been getting opportunity inside the goal line and not scoring as many touchdowns as he should. You can combine all that and get close to 50-1, right? And I think that that's a very reasonable path to how this game could play out. The 49ers do have an offensive ability to make other teams pass, right? Like this is a game that could start scoring, right? Like this is a game that could be pretty high scoring. If the Rams score, Kyle Shanahan's smart enough to score on a very good defense that the Rams have and really push this game into over situation. And I do like adding the spread to that if you want to play it. I do think that the Rams have kind of like clear advantages in this game. But also, I am perfectly fine not going on the spread and just going full alt yards, expecting this game to turn into a very high octane game.
So I think for leverage, if you're trying to get something that's already accelerated in price, you want to just go for the onslaught to end up on the right side of that event.
Exactly. Yeah. I honestly, I like this as a DFS play even more than I like it as like a full-on SGP play. But I do like the SGP angles of this, is that the Rams are likely going to pass the ball a lot. They've been showing this strong tendency towards the pass. The 49ers do not have a good pass defense at this moment. They're just decimated by injuries, right? Like, they're absolutely decimated by injuries. Matt Stafford is like, I don't get why he's not the favorite for MVP. Honestly, he is playing out of his mind right now. Go
I
dog.
think he's starting to creep into that territory.
Yeah,
a lot more mentions recently.
He's been playing so good. He does have really good wide receivers. I get like that part is helping support him, but it's like he is playing at a top 3 level for in basically every metric that you look at. And I think that, like, I'm sure there's a little bit of like Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan going on here, and I think that like Stafford is going to be throwing the ball today or tomorrow, I should say.
Hey, so question on that, in Casey, maybe some of your 49ers input, because we had some great talk last time. I think it was the Falcons and the 49ers matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, is there any element, one thing that I think of, okay, yes, it's Mac Jones still starting. I see Kyle Shanahan having that coaching advantage opportunity to pull it off, to somehow piece it together with what the 49ers can do on the bring back. And I like the 49ers to be able to keep it close. Is this fiction based on prior success? Or, am I kind of overlooking too much? Hey, you lose Fred Warner, you're depleted on defense, and things just aren't happening on offense. You still have Ricky Pearsall out. Is there an element where it's too much of the past with the 49ers? Or do you see the guile and ability for the 49ers to possibly pull an upset?
I'm not super confident in this version of this matchup, which typically has over time been a Shanahan dominated matchup, regardless of kind of where the Rams and the 49ers stand. McVay had a surge there for a minute, but what the difference between this matchup and the last matchup is the Niners have started to run the ball efficiently, right? Which they hadn't been doing in that previous matchup to them, which some questionable decision making, maybe makes that game, winnable in overtime, where, I think there was probably a pretty easier path for a different result the last time. But no, I don't have a great feeling about this one, but if San Fran can come out and establish the run and run it, like they've kind of switched their run concepts up from, they were kind of more of a zone running team forever. And they've kind of put in some more like kind of man concepts of like, hey, we're going to go out there and grind you into the ground. And we've seen a little bit more physicality. We've seen that work. Obviously the Giants are terrible at rush defense, but that was a big part of the game. So that's what they're going to try to come in this one, shorten this game up, keep the defense as fresh as possible, keep Stafford off the field. They're not going to try to get in a shootout here, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is an under game though. Like this is a kind of, I don't know what the over is here.
49.5.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a, 23-17 kind of game here.
So maybe this is an opportunity where there's some alt receiving yards on the bring back. Maybe you onslaught some, maybe you trim, because I know, Joseph, you like to keep 3, maybe 4 max legs. If you go 4 legs, onslaught Rams, maybe you trim. What do you like about the idea of you trim a leg from the Rams, and part of that finite plays, you bring in George Kittle on the other side, maybe alt receiving, something like 70. I would imagine 70 yards is about where George Kittle starts getting plus odds. He seems kind of due. What do you like about the idea of maybe you trim one, maybe it's that Kyron touchdown, and you have the bring back on the Kittle side, because we want to account for, as Casey said, hitting the over on the 49.5. Would Kittle be the play just because he may get the best price versus he and McCaffrey?
Yeah, I think that like the thing about, so I've seen like recent information about like George Kittle's been dealing with an injury, and I don't really know how serious that is as far as like like how much it's affecting his play, like in the receiving game. But I do know that like fantasy points, for instance, they shared like his average separation score has been like bottom 3 in the NFL. Like he is not separating right now.
One of the last games he was kind of, moving his knee around weird, just trying to keep it loose. So I don't know that he's the focal point of this pass game, which could be maybe this week he is. But he's certainly just a giant boost in the run game. Sorry, Joseph, I didn't mean
No. I think that's kind of exactly where I was going with it. I think that's like spot on. Like I'm thinking with what he's dealing with, he has not been separating like at all. And the Rams have a good pass and rush defense right now. And I think that, like, speaking to Casey's point, like, if the 49ers do come out and try to, like, establish the run, there's a good chance they're just going to lose when they try to do that, right? Like, if they come out and try to do that and they end up in these 3rd and long situations, the Rams have and it's not even close. The Giants have the worst run defense right now, like, worse than Cincinnati. Like, they have an awful, awful run defense. And the Rams do not. The Rams have one of the better run defenses in the NFL. So I just don't like if they come out and try to run it, the Rams stop it. Like that's just going to be more volume for Stafford and more plays, potentially more pass attempts, right? Like it really is a situation where if they come out and try to do that, it could end up in an ugly game. If that's what happens.
Now you had talked about MVP, and I did have like a side thought question when you mentioned Matthew Stafford, and maybe this is a process play as well. It's not necessarily a weekly play. This is more of an awards play. Just before the Miami game where Lamar returned for the Ravens, I got plus 10,000 for Lamar, and he's gone down and improved to plus 3,000. Anything to how we should approach looking at awards and best odds where we maybe want to sprinkle on a couple different high upside plays? Do you go towards chalk? Is there anything, do you play into any of those awards as we approach this kind of season where you can kind of see, all right, between week 10 and the finish line, we're close enough where maybe a guy makes a run or there's a long shot play versus a favorite? How do you account for any of that?
Well, I think that like the situation you talked about with Lamar is like perfect, like where you're getting just like insane odds for like a player who's already won the MVP and who's really good on a really good team, like on like what should have been a really good team, right? They've dealt with a lot of injuries, but it's like that's a situation where it's like, yeah, heck yeah, bet that all day long. But in general, I don't know. I think that like at this point in the season, a lot of the edge has been lost. I mean, I don't know what like, professional gamblers or anything like that would say about this, but it's like at this point in the season, we've really gotten an idea of what these teams are, what these players are, who's playing how well, and et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that like at this point in the season, if you haven't already bet it and you have a good situation going for yourself, I don't know. A lot of the edge has been lost. I think maybe there's a little edge in a few places, but it's just not a lot. It's not what it used to be. And that's where like I would start. I just look, there's other ways of kind of saying these bets. You know what I mean? Like Matt Stafford wins MVP. Well, the Rams are probably going to the Super Bowl, right? Like maybe like I would want to see like what are the Rams Super Bowl odds instead of betting
Stafford plus 500, Lamar.
Yeah, and so like if the Rams have longer Super Bowl odds, I'm more interested in those, right? At that point, because those are super correlated. If Rams are gonna if Stafford wins the MVP, well then yeah, like you're getting better odds for Rams Super Bowl
plus 750. Stafford Rams Super Bowl together.
I mean, they don't usually let you parlay those, but
Okay.
Like, and maybe there's a bet for like number 1 seed. Like what are the odds on him getting on the Rams getting the 1 seed? Like there's other ways of expressing these bets than just going MVP. And I think that's where I would kind of lean. So
that makes sense. Essentially, part of it is time value of money as well, and proximity, preseason, early season, maybe you make a different type of play.
Yeah.
But since we have so much of the story told, maybe there's other directions that we can go. I'm really hoping, just bias bags over here, that Lamar can really run, and he's accelerated up to 2,200. So you love to see it. But at the same time, to your point, Matthew Stafford has just, people forget how close the Rams had the Eagles on the ropes on the road in the playoffs last year. So interesting that we're just circling back to
And-
the Rams.
And real
having
quick, the Rams Super Bowl, just the last thing we should talk about the Rams. But, I just told y'all on the Team Risk Statistical Review, they're the best team in the NFL. They have had the best offensive and defensive strength as far as like either controlling the other team's EPAs or getting EPA themselves. They have they're in the best tier. Like they stand alone in the best tier. They've been passing the ball a lot with a really good quarterback, and they are not they're plus 750 to win the Super Bowl, right? Like they are currently the best team from like an advanced statistical perspective, and they're plus 750 to win the Super Bowl.
Man, imagine if Aaron Donald, who's just been lifting weights and showing these workouts, was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to come back for the stretch." Can you just imagine?
Just saying.
Let's segue over and talk a little bit. Falcons Colts are going to be
go across the pond or
over
Germany,
over
wherever
in
we're
Germany,
going.
right? And we just had Oktoberfest. Hopefully, you have some good German beers on tap going. Those seasonal beers going, right? But Joseph, there's a ticket that I made, and I kind of want to ask you philosophy-wise a little bit. Over on FanDuel, Falcons Colts over under 48.5, Colts minus 6.5. It looks the same there on DraftKings. You had it in your Substack, which everyone go read. Okay, Joseph's putting out a lot of great information. Absolutely worth the subscription as well. So make sure anything Joseph is doing, printing, publishing, posting, tap in. I've got a ticket where I made, it was plus 8,600, inspired by the read that I got. So just enjoyment there, right? Michael Penix, 250 alt passing yards. Kyle Pitts, 90. Kyle Pitts touchdown with a Josh Downs alt 60 yards receiving on the run back. Now, in your Substack, and I'd like to ask you about this concept, kind of like a trim, essentially, because you have the play, I think, either 275 or 300 for the yards on Penix. I think you have 100 on Pitts and for alt receiving yards. And I sometimes will see a ticket that you print, and I'll do a little trim, I'll do a little haircut. I know you had mentioned in the last show, sometimes you don't know when to necessarily trim down some of your odds. Is that a challenge for you? And then how do you equivocate it? Do you look at, hey, if I go up here at the 300 or 275 and the 100 versus the 250 and the 90, do you look at the offset of, hey, if I hit, I'll boomerang forward more than missing at the 300 and the 100? Does that make sense?
A little bit. I think that the to start with, like, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest struggles for like any kind of like alt better or SGPer is just like how far to push it, right? Like how far should you really push this? Because you start getting into like territory where it's really hard to quantify. And that's like, if you talk to like professional gamblers, like really like people who have been like doing this, that they just bet the spread. They're just like, I have a 1 point edge on the spread, and they bet the spread, and they just do that over and over again. Like they hate SGPs and they hate the way that this is approached. But when you really kind of lock in on these edges, like these 1%, 2% edges, but they're at the tails, it's really hard to quantify. And that's where it gets a little tough for me to like understand like how far should I push this? And so like Kyle Pitts, for instance, this week has a massive, massive advantage against the Colts, who have been the worst team in the NFL at covering the tight end lately. And over the season, they've been the worst team at covering the tight end. And now you're adding Sauce Gardner, who, they may, I don't want to speculate on how they're going to deploy him. I think that like, we don't know. We're not the coaching staff. We don't really know. But like, there's good reason to believe that they're probably just going to send them out and say, hey, cover Drake London. Just go cover him.
Yeah,
right?
2 ones, baby.
Yeah, like we don't have to do anything complicated. Just go cover them, and who knows how successful or anything like that. But better than whoever's there right now, I'll tell you that. Whoever they're going to put in, they have not been an excellent coverage defense. They have been playing a lot of man coverage, and Michael Penix hasn't been that great against man coverage this season. But Kyle Pitts has. Kyle Pitts has been really good at separating against man coverage, and he's been one of the best tight ends in the NFL at separating. So there's a lot of reason to believe that the pass game could really funnel through Kyle Pitts. And the question is how far to push that, right? Like how far should you really push that? One thing I've been doing lately to kind of control myself, right? Like to control my brain and like, man, I think he could go for super crazy odds, is on my core bets, right? Like, so like I'll do like a core bet and I'll do like I'll push it like a core and then push. So my core bets, I usually will not go above plus 300 on the odds when I'm doing my core bets, like on my, like even sometimes my unpublished plays, like just me. I will just combine things that do not go over plus 300, right? And see how far I can take it doing that.
Now, do you mean each single leg is no more than plus 300? Okay.
Each single leg is no more than plus 300, because that at least controls my SGP, my alt brain, right? Because I'm wanting to crank the dial. I'm like, can I get plus 65,000 on this? You know, like how can I push this as far as I possibly can? And so I use that is kind of a rule. So I don't do more than 4 legs, and I don't go over plus, like I should say I don't go over plus 400. So I'll go into the 300 range, but I won't go over plus 400.
Yeah.
When I'm combining things, and that's kind of helping control like how far I go on my core bets. But then on my push bets, I'm, you know, as long as I don't go over 4 legs, I'm kind of allowed to do whatever I want in my brain. And that's where like I get like Kyle Pitts, I think will have a great game. How far of a great game he has, I don't know, but I can't wait until books all for alt fantasy points, because I'd be all over that.
Excellent. Especially, hey, how would you delineate? Would you do half PPR? Would you do PPR? It'd be very fun. And it's just interesting because I laugh because when you talk about, hey, you could just go crazy in the alt verse. Greg Dulcich, I'm not saying that somebody in this room might have some nasty, heinous Kincaid, Dulcich, or Knox in Dulcich tickets where it's in the stratosphere that you're talking about. I fully jive with that. I really like how you say the plus 300, because you've talked about the amount of legs, but I like the psychology into that because maybe people have been putting in tickets when you're trying to, because we're trying to teach people to fish here. People might be, hey, I'll put all these plus 550 tickets together, 3 or 4 of them, and they're just completely sunk. So I like that levity towards, hey, if it's between 300 and 400, you know, like last week, Basil Tootin was a plus 330. He was part of my leg with JMO and Janty. And to your point, none of those 3 legs for the anytime touchdown combined together were above plus 400. So I think steering, like staying on the road, that's good practice. That's good intel to make sure we have.
Yeah. So. And that's for like my core bets, like the core kind of how I'm approaching the game from like I don't know, like if you think about it like a ladder philosophy, right? Like your lowest ladder, or maybe not even your lowest ladder, but like your mid-tier ladder, the one that you're like, this is my core bet. That's kind of how I approach it. And then for like my laddered up versions, my pushed versions, that's where I'll get a little crazier, and it really starts becoming a vibe-based art form, if you will. You know, it's just kind of like, I feel like that's about right. Which, you know, that's the best I can approach it. But to get back to your ticket, like I think I love it. I really like that ticket. You know, normally I have some critiques, but I actually don't. I think that's a fantastic ticket that you got in. I think that this is a spot where like Kyle Pitts and really the Falcons offense is in a very good passing situation for 2 reasons, right? The Colts have been like kind of funneling teams a little bit towards the pass, as well as the Colts are one of the biggest pushers in the NFL, right? Like they score. They're good at scoring. Even last week in a game that they lost, they should have won. Just saying, they should have won that game. They had a better adjusted score. They had a better net EPA. They had a better, EDP per drive, expected drive points. They should have won that game in basically every way. And they did push the Steelers a little bit, right? And they're going to push teams. That's just what they're going to do. That's the nature of how they're going to be playing. And I fully think that this is a spot where the Falcons, if they're going to have a chance to keep this game close and to win, they are going to have to pass the ball. And I think that a lot of that passing is probably going to go through Kyle Pitts. I actually think Bijan is a good spot to attack tier 2. Like just saying, the Colts have not been amazing at defending running back receptions, and Bijan is Bijan Robinson. You know, maybe the best running back in the NFL, at least top 3. And I think that that's a good spot to attack too.
Man, you love to see it. Excellent breakdown on the Colts and the Falcons.
I think real quick, I think you buried the lead here on the Colts. I mean, we're not going to talk about the king here.
This is what
we're doing. That's a fair point too. Alec Pierce is the king. He is the king. But so as much as I love Alec Pierce, I love Alec Pierce. His lines have gotten high, right?
But he has covered every single week on the over. Is that correct? Right?
He has.
Is he not due for a touchdown though? Is that the way we have to play it?
I mean, he is. So I just think that this is a spot where Alec Pierce, a lot of the value has been sucked out, right? People have finally caught up to him being good, and this is where like it's a tough, like talking about delineating things. It's tough delineating loving a player because I do love Alec Pierce, but okay, now you're going up against you're going into this game with what, like a 60-yard over under? It's somewhere around there, right? Like,
yeah, it's 60.
Right. Like I that's like what I would put his alt to, right? Like he was getting alts at 60 at plus 300.
Yes.
And I was betting that like every week, right? Like I would
101.
I would bet that all day long, right? But when you're getting a 60 at plus 101, that's about what his over, like
he's at 71.6 per game.
Things have caught up, and the Falcons are not like an insanely man coverage heavy team like the Steelers were. When the Colts play a man coverage heavy team, like a top 3 man coverage rate team, I'm going to be betting Alec Pierce alts all day long, and that's just where I'm going to lean into. And I don't want to tell people not to bet Alec Pierce alts because I do think he can hit any week. He could always hit, but there's just not a lot of reason to think this is the week because the Falcons aren't that archetype of team. Kind of like the Steelers. Like the Steelers are the perfect archetype of team to attack with Alec Pierce. The Falcons aren't necessarily the perfect archetype of team to attack with Alec Pierce. And so for that reason, I'm not going to be going all in on him, right? Like I'm not going to be betting massive alts and massive things on Alec Pierce. Though I do love Alec Pierce. I will always bang the drum for Alec Pierce.
Well, this is something to, again, like, subscribe, share, view, get in on anything that Joseph is putting out there because Joseph, critics, when it looked heinous, the pricing on Alec Pierce, you beat the drum for him and he has produced, and now those lines are priced much differently. Yesterday's price is not today's price. The price of the brick is going up, right? Now let's pivot over to something that could be heinous, but we have the Saints and the Panthers. I printed 2 tickets and I did a tail event and then I trimmed just to see what it would print. So here's the tail event play that I have on this Saints Panthers game. Over under 38.5, minus 5.5. Panthers are favored. Maybe there could be something crazy with these teams with the alternate spread, but I just ventured into Tedero McMillan has a hamstring injury. Jalen Coker, can you get me 4 receptions? That's plus money at 4 receptions. Alt. Chris Olave, alt 60 yards, got me plus money. Tyler Shaw, alt 250. Bryce Young, alt 250. $5 pays $328. It's plus 6,400 odds. Now I trim that down off just to see, hey, 2 NFL quarterbacks throwing for 250 yards. We're not asking for anything crazy. But when you hear Panthers and Saints, especially Saints, you're like, oh my God. But can I just entertain alt 250, Bryce Young and Tyler Shaw 250? Just 2 legs. $5 pays 150 at plus 2,800. So Joseph, the tail event play, is it disgusting or are we being contrarian enough because this is a 38.5 over under?
Yeah, so disgusting plays in general, I love. Like I love a disgusting play. That's where the money is made, right? Like that's where you can really find these big edges is when it gets really disgusting. There's a good the way that the NFL's kind of like separated itself this year. There's a lot of teams that just are really bad at passing the ball, and their lines are getting shifted really low because of that. And the Panthers and the Saints, but the Panthers even more so, are like one of those teams. The biggest concern about this game is that the Panthers are the biggest run in position team, meaning they will run it in basically any and every situation. It'll be like they do not like passing the ball. They run it against teams that allow passes more than they should. They run it against teams that allow runs more than they should. They just run it way more than they should. And the Saints are the biggest run funnel. You'd be surprised, but they're the biggest rush attempt funnel in the league. The teams run it on the Saints more than any other team. And I think it's because the Saints have the worst PFF tackling grade. They're awful at tackling. And I think that's why teams choose to run it so much on the Saints is they just cannot tackle. They have the worst tackling grade by like a good margin. Like the second closest team is like a decent amount away. So my biggest worry is that there's a million reasons to believe that the Panthers are going to run the ball heavily on this team. And that's where like you get into like tail events. Like how do you play a story out where they pass the ball? And so I do love the odds on each quarterback to throw for 250 because throwing for 250 is in theory not hard. I will say in the year 2025, somehow 250 has become kind of difficult for quarterbacks to attain.
Would you say it's like the new 300 or is that just over?
No, I wouldn't say it's the new I mean, not for maybe for these quarterbacks it is, but for like a good quarterback, not necessarily. I just think that teams are just less willing than ever to throw the ball. And this is a matchup where I do love the Shah angle, if that's how you say his name, because the Panthers are a huge pass funnel. Talking about the Saints being a big rush attempt funnel, the Panthers are an absolute pass funnel, and they play a ton of zone coverage. Chris Olave has been one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, just in statement, but also one of the best wide receivers in the NFL against zone coverage. Right? He's a zone coverage slayer. And so I think this is a situation where you can really attack the game through Tyler Shaw, Chris Olave, and I love the Jalen Coker bring back. He's a coach I was open player, so he should have been getting a lot of targets last week and did not get as many targets as he should have. I think maybe we see an instance where he kind of has a little breakout against this defense who's really bad at everything. And then I think that this is a game where I see the Panthers having a ton of rush attempts. Now, whether they're successful in the pass attempts they do have, who knows? I think they should be. But the Panthers should have a lot of rush attempts in this game. And that's my biggest concern is the Bryce Young 250 is probably what scares me the most. Though my models do say that this is the biggest edge of the week, right? And as far as passing, the passing yards model says that this is the biggest edge of the week because Bryce Young is like a pretty decent quarterback. Like think end of last year, right? He was having an awesome end of last year.
Absolutely.
But they had 100 passing yards last week and beat the Packers. I mean, I think if they can get out of a game with less than 50 passing yards, I think they would.
Yeah. Also just a completely, different brand of defense coming in from New Orleans. Right. And so, they do have a decent D line and some good linebackers in there. So it could be finding it hard and a division rival. So they could be finding it a little tougher sledding to get Rico going. Now, I think they would stick with it because I don't think that the Saints are going to put them in a position where, they're going to have to come back and score because that offense isn't necessarily running super efficient. But I actually, you guys have talked me into being kind of interested in this.
Yeah, I think that it's a fun game, especially from like the Panther. Like again, the
fun games are stretch, but
but fun. You can get this to be a fun game if you think.
Like how many beers do you need to have for it to be like? You say about 3 beers, and you're like, okay, I can cook with this. Hey, Olave, they get up right. Shuck hits Olave on a big touchdown on the first drive or second drive to get up,
and now they got to
have to run it back a little bit, right? Question though on the Rico Dowdle, because we're already on the heinous play of what could happen. It's ugly, it's contrarian, but it's one of the beautiful price points that if we can hit right, we're going to be great. Rico Dowdle though, if you were to lean into him, do you think that he's priced in way too much? Because his over-under is 91.5. You get plus odds barely at plus 100, it looks like, or plus 116 for 100 yards. Rushing. Is it too baked in to where you would avoid Rico Dowdle, or would there be somewhere where you would lean into like a superior alt spread on the Panthers, even higher, like a 10-point win with Dowdle going off for maybe 125? Is there some kind of onslaught that you would just completely fade the Saints and get value on Rico Dowdle, or do you stay away?
That's the tough part is like his lines are crazy because I think he's just the reincarnation of Adrian Peterson at this point. I do think that there's a ton of value in the Chuba Hubbard lines. Now, whether Chuba Hubbard gets like decent carries, I don't think it'll take that many carries against this awful Saints rushing, like tackling defense for either running back to like. I think the yards per carry in this game are going to be very high, and so it's like, how many carries do you think they're going to get? And that's where like I kind of like looking at this from an attempts angle more so than even a yards angle. And so, like looking at like Rico Dowdle attempts, looking at Chuba Hubbard attempts. If I don't think there are any lines on Chuba Hubbard attempts, but looking at this through rushing attempts and thinking like thinking of these stories and how could they can play out in kind of the most interesting ways that give us an edge. And maybe even like pass attempts, maybe Bryce Young to go under his pass attempts and Jalen Coker to have a good game going. You know what I mean? Like attacking this in a way that maybe we're telling the same story, but we're just telling it in a different way.
And I like it. I like it a lot. So, hey, for anybody who hasn't thrown up yet, if you were, just starting off your day, hey, ingest some Saints and Panthers bets and you'll be feeling great in a little bit, especially tomorrow. So this will be a fun one to call back and look on because this is where we can get opportunity from a price point, just a benefit. We look for this. It may sound disgusting, but remember, we have to hit on just a smaller percentage of these alt plays where there's such generous plus odds. You boomerang back, you hit one or two tickets, and you propel forward in your book, in your budget.
Right.
And heading over to just another one.
One second, real quick, Jeremiah. If Joseph, what would you say would be like the safest prop? Like, would Chris Olave over 60 yards be like if you just had to pick one safe, the
safest? I would say that the two safest props that probably interest me the most are, I do like Chris Olave, right? Like going over his receiving yards. I actually like Alvin Kamara a lot to go over his receptions. The Saints, like Alvin Kamara, even on a down year, he's still been getting targeted at a decent rate. The Panthers give up a top 5 target share to running backs. Because they play off zone coverage a lot, they allow a lot of targets to the running back. They do not mind the running back getting targeted. So I do think this is a situation where you might see more Alvin Kamara receptions than normal.
We pluck that up to just 4+ receptions, it's plus 272.
Think about that like a year or two ago. You'd be like, Alvin Kamara's under receptions would be like 8. So
yeah. All right. Sorry, Jeremiah.
No, that's good. That's really love to squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube on that for Alvin Kamara because, like you say, and hey, it's disgusting until it happens. So part of what we're doing, it's a gross process, but the beauty is that's where we can find some alignment and everything's not going to necessarily be linear. If you can kind of see that value in Alvin Kamara, my God, 4 receptions plus 272. Yes, absolutely. And you can still see it. It's still within a reasonable range of outcomes. So good point on that. The Lions Commanders, Joseph, can you help us here? Over under 48.5. Lions favored by 8.5. High game total despite Jaden Daniels being out. Last week, we saw the Seahawks just thrived. Sam Darnold just crushed. Torrey Horton had that huge game. Anybody could get a touchdown if they wanted. Is there some goodness? Is there Jameson Williams reverse line correlation play? An entire breakout game? You had talked a couple weeks ago how you liked Jameson Williams. You seem to love pre-show some Jameson Williams. We're hearing about Chris Rodriguez getting some captainship. Where's the value to squeeze in this game? Because it's amazing for me. 49.5 over under is the biggest surprise. The spread being what it is in favor of the Lions doesn't. But Joseph, what am I missing to where we could get this near 50-point total? And where would you trim?
Yeah, so I think that this is a situation where you don't get this a lot, right? But the Seahawks have been playing, out of their minds at this point, but the Lions are just like another version of the Seahawks, at least offensively. Like they play quite similarly. Like they have similar play action rates. They have similar, they have Seahawks have JSN, the Lions have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now the Seahawks have Rashid Shaheed, who is kind of similar to the Lions, Jameson Williams. Like these teams are actually quite similar on the offensive side of the ball as far as how they're structured. And the Commanders are the Commanders still. They are still the Commanders after last week, but they are awful at defending play action. They are so bad at it. And the Seahawks are like the number 1 play action team in the NFL. The Lions are like the number 2 play action team in the NFL. I think that this is a situation. It's it's kind of perfect, but it's like you're just getting a copy paste of last week as far as like the team. You might be like downgrading a little bit on the offense, at least the Lions have not been playing to the Seahawks level of efficiency as of late. Like, who knew Jared Goff wasn't as good as Sam Darnold? But I think that we're in a situation where I copy paste last week into this week, and I am super interested. Last week, one of my big story hits that hit spot on was I was all in on like Sam Darnold over yards and under attempts. That was one of my big calls. I had Cooper Kupp in it because I write these on Friday. His injury hadn't been determined yet, but everything hit in that story. Like every single point hit in that story. I think that we're in a similar situation where Goff over yards and Goff under attempts, and there are two awesome funnels that to go through here. You can either attack it through Jameson Williams or you can attack it through Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has a much better kind of matchup situation. Like, I'm all in on him, but I think you're going to get a lot better lines on Jameson Williams. And you can even go under receptions on Jameson Williams and make these odds go crazy. Because I do think there's not going to be a ton of pass attempts, but when they do play action and when they do chunk it deep, they're going to be very successful in doing so. So I think this is an awesome situation for Goff over yards, Goff under attempts, and then pick your receiver and then send them to the moon.
I love that. Anything on the Commander side that you would even hint at, or is
a little bit. So the Lions both teams actually allow a ton of single coverage. So one of the things that I like monitoring in the NFL is how are defenses allowing single coverage situations, right? So and then are they good at defending those? Those are the two things that I care about a lot when I'm looking at defenses. So the Lions are a team that allows a lot of single coverage situations. They say my players are better than yours, whether it be zone coverage or man coverage. That's where I try to like be a little bit different as I look at like, do these single coverage situations develop in man or zone? It doesn't really matter because once you're in single coverage, it's basically man coverage, right? And so the Lions play a lot of man coverage, but they also allow a lot of single coverage situations in zone. And so do the Commanders. The big difference is the Lions are good at it. The Lions are actually really good at covering these single coverage situations, and the Commanders are not. And that's where I think like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams can thrive. But Debo gets a ton of targets in single coverage situations and in man coverage, right? So this is a spot where I think Debo might get a lot of targets. Now, whether he capitalizes on those targets, I'm not real sure, but he's going to get a ton of targets. Or at least I think he will through his targets per route run in man coverage and in single coverage situations. So I think this is a situation where you might get, some slight alts and some Debo. I think that makes complete sense. I do think that this is more than likely a situation where the Lions are going to blow out the Commanders if the Commanders choose to play defense similarly to how they played last week, which they've been pretty stubborn on how they've been choosing to deploy their defense.
Is there anything on just like since Montgomery is the lower total of yards, like the Commanders have been absolutely awful at tackling anybody. Is there any play to like taking just the running back with the like obviously it's Montgomery, but like we're playing either one of these running backs as just like a very general like bland play?
Well, yeah, I mean I don't mind it at all. I think that the bigger thing is like, so the Commanders are a huge rush attempt funnel. Like we talk about the Saints being a big rush attempt funnel. The Commanders are a huge rush attempt funnel, but they're a lot better at defending it than the Saints were. Now, I will say that like the Commanders aren't amazing. Like they don't have like a top 5 tackling grade or anything like that. They just don't have nearly as bad as the Saints do, right? The Saints are truly, truly awful at it. But I do think this is a situation where you might see like, you could see like some alt situations. I think some break off runs make a lot of sense, but I'm just way more interested in the angle of the Lions attacking this game through play action and doing well through it. I think that Gibbs receiving is a really good spot too. The Commanders have been awful on a per reception basis at covering running backs.
You like yards or receptions?
Receiving yards, I should say.
So over 25.
Yeah, so Gibbs, I think, is in an awesome situation to like break off a reception, maybe break off a run. Again, if we had alt fantasy points, I'd be all over some Jahmyr Gibbs on it.
Yeah, I've just been watching just week after week these running backs just attack them and just eventually just get worn down and bust runs, and just like it's been one of my favorite plays of just they're playing the Commanders. If they're like, we saw Swift, who was last week I guess because they used 2 running backs and they were up so large, maybe it was a little harder to do for the Seahawks. But there were certainly spots where it looked like Walker could get going or Sharps could get going. The Seahawks run game is kind of weird right now as far as how they're using those guys, but just didn't know if there was anything baseline there with that. So you guys ready to keep it moving?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Where you want to go next, Jeremiah?
We got the Ravens and the Vikings. 4.5 point favorite are the Ravens. 48.5 over under. Zay Flowers, Joseph, is a route-based hero. So I'm asking too, if we're going to go right back to him, how maybe we should attack the game. Justin Jefferson, touchdown regression. You talked about him, and here he did well in week 9. But here's a play, a ticket, alt, 5 pays 120, 22-1 odds. Zay Flowers, alt 6, gets you plus money. Jordan Addison, alt 5 receptions. Jefferson gets 100. JJ McCarthy gets 250 alt passing yards. What do you make of this play? Are there other areas that you would attack? How are you playing this game?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is that so Zay Flowers is one of 2 receivers this week that is a route-based hero and has what PFF considers a great matchup, right? So how PFF grades related to the wide receiver and then related to the cornerbacks on the other side, and kind of projects how many snaps each corner is going to cover the wide receiver and kind of how that plays out into a situation. So Zay Flowers is one of 2 wide receivers. The other is Teteroa McMillan, by the way, who's dealing with an injury. But so there are 2 wide receivers, and Zay Flowers is one of them. So I do really like attacking this game through Zay Flowers on the Ravens side of things. And I will always like that. He is basically, until he explodes, he's going to be a route-based hero every single week because he's really good at getting open. And you just got to get the man the ball. Just get Zay Flowers the ball, and he is going to do good things. As far as the other side, I really like the game from the Viking side because it's really disgusting, at least on the passing, JJ McCarthy lines. So 2 things. So the Ravens are not a great pass defense. They haven't been lately. They've been dealing with injuries, but they allow a lot of single coverage situations, and they are truly atrocious at getting pressure. They've been a bottom 5 team in basically every pressure metric, which is kind of unlike them. It is just not like the Ravens defenses of past. And this is going to be JJ McCarthy's kind of one of his first games where he's not going to be dealing with a lot of pressure from the defense. He hasn't played a lot. He just really has not played that much. And and I think his first game, he didn't deal with that much pressure, and he was fine. But now that he's kind of getting acclimated, he's not going to have a lot of pressure. They allow a lot of single coverage. This is a situation where I think that, Lamar could push them as well. Lamar and the Ravens are an offense that can absolutely push you. I don't know. I really do like the idea of JJ McCarthy going over his yardage and Justin Jefferson to be he's Justin Jefferson, being the main target here. The Jordan Addison, I'm not 100% sure. That's probably the only leg here where I'm I don't know about. He doesn't get nearly the targets per route run that Justin Jefferson does in single coverage situations. So that would be my only concern, is that if the Ravens continue to play single coverage like they have, Jordan Addison may not get the kind of looks that we are hoping that he gets. But I do love the rest of those legs. I think that this is a spot where Zay Flowers, Justin Jefferson, JJ McCarthy all have the potential to go off. And then the question will be, how do the Ravens kind of deploy their defense? Because they might change up how they're deploying things to make sure they cover Justin Jefferson, where Jordan Addison gets more looks than normal.
And I'm really thrilled about the fact that this isn't in Baltimore, that this game is actually in Minnesota. Just goodness for just that leverage that you can get on the field, especially for Lamar trying to run a fast break offense. I think both sides, this can be so good. So I do like the Viking side, but on the Raven side, Sands or involved with Zay Flowers, are you attacking Mark Andrews? Is it Derrick Henry, Lamar? How would you squeeze the juice to get the best plus odds out of the Raven side?
So this one's a little bit tougher because, looking at just this year's numbers and trying to understand what Todd Monken is doing and how Lamar is playing. Lamar hasn't played a lot this year. But as far as the year is concerned, when you look at how Tyler Huntley played, Cooper Rush played, in general, Rashad Bateman is getting a lot of targets when there's pressure. So when the defense is blitzing and when the defense generates pressure,
Right.
Rashad Bateman is getting more targets than normal. So I do think that to add on to that, the Vikings get the most pressure and they blitz more than anybody.
Right.
Brian Flores is a demon. So I think that this is a situation where you might see an outsized amount of targets towards Rashad Bateman. And the Vikings in general have not been great at covering wide receivers. So to me, Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman make a lot of sense to kind of attack in this game.
Hey, and as you say that, Rashad Bateman coming back to Minnesota.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. There you go. All right, we want to keep it moving here on another game.
Yeah, if we could do Giants Bears, maybe there's something going on with the weather. I know in Chicago it can always be windy, right? The Bears -4.5 favorites, 47.5 over under. I've got an alt play where it's Jackson Dart 250 passing yards. The Giants, it's a wreck, right? Because you had mentioned, Joseph, how all your legs had hit. Darius Slayton drops a pass, and it could be Wandale.
He was wide open. Yeah, he didn't get targeted. I wish he did.
We don't know what the chalk is, right? But going on the other side, I got alt 250 for Caleb Williams. Roma Dunze, we go back to the well, alt 90 receiving yards. And then Colson Loveland, not trying to get too greedy, but Colson Loveland off that big week has plus lines on all 40 receiving. So I put him in the leg. So it's Caleb, Rome, Colston. Bring back whatever Jackson Dart can take from the scraps, because he seems to be the constant in this offense. What do you make of this Bears-Giants play? Are there any angles that you would attack different?
Yeah, I think that so I do like the Colston Loveland play, just to throw that in there real quick. So the Giants have allowed a lot of receptions to tight ends. It's actually something I didn't include in my Substack because I just now looked at it. But the Giants have allowed a lot of receptions to tight ends, and with him kind of breaking out, I think it makes a lot of sense that he continues to kind of break out, right? He continues. He's been pretty good at getting open. It's just he hasn't gotten a lot of snaps so far this season. So I think that this is a situation where that makes a lot of sense. The biggest worry is the weather. I'm, as I always say, I'm not a weatherman. It's a little bit hard to really understand. Like I don't know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow at 1 p.m. in Chicago. I don't know. That's not my specialty, right? And looking at it real quick, just doing a quick Google on it, it says that we're going to have 15 mile per hour of winds basically the whole day, it looks like. And so that's not great as far as getting the ball deeper downfield, which Jackson Dart loves to do, right? Jackson Dart, at least before last week, he leads the NFL in like deep attempt percentage. He loves chunking it. And I wish he would have to Darius Slayton last week. I could talk about that all day long. But Jackson Dart in general likes to throw it deep, and throwing it deep with 15 mile per hour of winds is just harder to do, right? Like that's just a harder thing to do. And who knows what the gusts are? I just did a quick Google on it. So I think that this is a situation where if the weather is good, if you hear like, man, the winds have calmed down and the weather's looking good in Chicago tomorrow, tomorrow right before the game kicks off, heck yeah, I'm all in on it. I love the Jackson Dart angle in this game. It's just the weather. I've always hated weather. God, I hate weather. But it just causes a bit of confusion. I do think that there is still a really good angle to attack with this game, even if the weather is bad. And that is through the Bears rushing. Like I discussed earlier, The Giants have the worst run defense in the NFL by a margin. Like them and the Bengals are by a margin awful at defending the run. And I think like we saw DeAndre Swift not practice yesterday. I think I don't know what the odds are now, but like when I posted bets for the Substack, Kyle Monangai 100 and Roma Dunze 100. Which Roma Dunze is really good against man coverage.
I was going to say, that was going to be my follow-up question. What's the percentage that the Giants run man coverage?
Yeah, so Giants run man coverage, at least over the last month, more than like anybody. Them and the Steelers run man coverage at like crazy rates. On the season, the Giants run man coverage at like a top 2 rate. Like they run man coverage a lot. Roma Dunze has been like excellent, like top 15 wide receiver at getting targets, top like 5 wide receiver at getting yards in man coverage. He's so good against man coverage. And so I think this is a spot where like Kyle Monangai could go off, Roma Dunze could go off. Putting both of them at like 100 yards, you got 100-1 plus 10,000. I know. I don't know what the odds are at this very moment, but when I posted this on Friday, I was very upset I didn't live in a state where gambling was legal. I thought about driving to Tennessee just to place that bet.
Right. So if you get Rome at plus 100, it's plus 485, and Monungai at plus 100 is plus like 685.
Yeah, and then both of them to get that's already changed to what, plus 3,700. When I posted, I should have driven to Tennessee.
Wow.
When I posted that, it was 100-1, right? And I was all in on that bet. Sadly, I did not drive to Tennessee, but that's still pretty good odds, right? Like that's still 37-1, still pretty good. I do wish that was a little higher, but you know, you're getting like maybe you push them up to 110 and see what happens. But this is an awful run defense that plays a lot of man coverage, and the Bears have been pretty clear about like who they throw the ball to in man coverage. And then Kyle Monungai, in my opinion, looked awesome against basically the same run defense. Like you know, as far as the skill level is concerned, the same run defense last week. So I think that. And then with DeAndre Swift not practicing yesterday, though he has said he's going to play, you know, you're looking at a potential like 70-30 carry situation where Monungai has another good game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that a lot. I like that pushing Monungai up into the 100 area to get some good odds, even if that's just a single play for you right now with Swift being kind of on the fence and not knowing what's going to happen. I think either way, since the Giants are so bad at covering the run, like there's really no reason to shoehorn Swift in there if he's not 100%, if you can get it done with Monungai anyway.
Yeah, and one thing to add on Monungai, I was watching a different show that Brad Allen he talks about the NFL. He's a good better. He was talking about how like Ben Johnson has come out and like really praised Kyle Monungai for he does what the coaches say to do. Like he is very good at doing what the coaches say to do. DeAndre Swift is not that player. Even back to Georgia, he just likes doing his own thing. He just does. He's good at it too. But he does what the coaches say to do, and coaches love that. Coaches love when you do what they tell you to do, right? So I would not be surprised if Kyle Monungai, just even if DeAndre Swift's fully healthy, got more carries. He just kind of like ascends in this backfield. My DeAndre Swift dynasty shares are crying about that. But I do think that that's like a real situation, and you're going against like another bottom 3 run defense. We just saw what he did to a bottom 3 run defense. You know, I think that this is a great situation for him.
Yeah, no, I like just single. If you're just missionary, as our man Chev would say, vanilla. I think Monungai just over whatever the situation is a nice easy bet to throw into like a parlay for underdog or whatever you're playing on as one of your things to click on like that. That just seems screaming easy over 50 or whatever it is right now. It seems like it should be a layup, which means it probably won't hit. So
yeah, exactly. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah. You guys want to jump into one more game?
Yeah, we can do one more quick. Browns at Jets. Browns road favorites, -2.5 over under 37.5. I know it fluctuates. It might be up to 38. Quinshon Judkins, anytime touchdown. Judkins, all 100 yards. No Quinnen Williams, right? And then on the other side, Justin Fields gets plus odds at 175 alt passing. We've done the 250 game a million times. But hey, 175. And then Mason Taylor, alt 50. 5 pays you 117. So it's 22-1. Joseph, what do you make of the play there? It sounds disgusting, but do you see feasibility to that play? And then how would you differentiate?
Yeah, so there's a few things on this. So thing one, I'd say Mason Taylor's a little bit concerning just because the Browns have been pretty good at covering the tight end. Like they don't allow a lot of receptions to the tight end. Mason Taylor's been really good, but it's like, you know, they like to play man coverage. They like to cover the tight end just in general. So I think that would be my biggest concern with the bet. The second thing is like listening to some other shows. Like I you know, after I write the Substack, I actually go back and I watch other betting shows to try to get like, what are sharp people on? Like, what are other smart people thinking and how are they perceiving the week? And thankfully, a lot of the times we're on the same page, but, you know, sometimes we're on different pages. I went into this game thinking, you know, I don't know, Browns decimate the Jets. That's kind of how I read this game before I looked at lines, before I looked at anything. And there are reasons to believe that is not the case. You know, one of my I guess, North Stars on this, on like thinking SGPs and everything, is Judah Fortgang at Throw the Damn Ball. He talked about this game. He has an SGP which he loves. He attacks us through Jets passing, right? Like Jets pass the ball more than normal, and they're very successful at it. And he got it up to like 90-1 doing that. But I think this is it's tough, right? The Browns have really big road and home splits on their defense. So their defense plays incredibly well, like best defense in the NFL when they're at home. And this goes years back. Like as long as Jim Schwartz is the coordinator, this is like how he performs. At home, the defense is like the best defense in the NFL. Away, they're awful. They're truly terrible. I don't know why. Like I don't know what's going on to cause that situation, but that is the case. And so they're at the Jets. The pass defense is significantly worse when they're playing on the road. They play a lot of man coverage. I see a world where Justin Fields absolutely could hit his all-over passing yards. I see a world where Garrett Wilson could go off in his return. I see a world where the Jets could end up winning this game by a decent amount. Now, I will also say I see a world where maybe those splits are kind of, they don't come to fruition and Myles Garrett takes over this game and Justin Fields looks like a pumpkin and the Browns win by 17. This is a game where I did not write up a lot. I kind of stayed away from this game and I will. I'm not going to place a lot on this, but if anything, I'll probably place a little bit on some alt passing here for either quarterback and then kind of tell a story through their wide receiver ones, just a little bit. I'm not going to attack this game heavily. I'm going to mostly stay away from this. It'll be just like a few long shot bets just in case other smart people are correct. But in general, I'm going to stay away from this game just because it's just ugly for more reasons than like the Saints and the Panthers game. It's just ugly.
Yeah. I know there was some when you and I did our P-Whopper show, there was a little bit of Judy love here. Now, is there anything on the Judy side of things that you would be comfortable with or excited about or thinking about?
Yeah, and he's one player that I wrote up in my Substack write-up. He is a player that I wrote up as far as he is awesome at getting open. He has been really good. The Jets just traded away their best pressure player, right, and they traded away their best cornerback. Their second best, what is it, Jason Brownlee? He's been awful. Like he has been really bad. Really, all of their cornerbacks outside of Sauce have been really bad. I don't mind some Judy alts in this situation. I think that he's one player that I really don't mind. It's just, can Dylan Gabriel get him the ball? Right. Can they play effective offense? So that's kind of where I would lean in this but in general, again, I just think that this is, it was a tough read for me to get on this game. And I think that that's where I've explained what I like about it, but outside of that, it's kind of like, I'm not real sure.
Jeremiah, you got anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I think to your point, I could trim the Mason Taylor leg. I feel great, Tony the Tiger, about Quinshon Judkins this week. Yeah. And I think he's just, it's tough because there's some spots where I have him in best ball and spots where I'm going against him this week. But it's just one of those things where you're just true to it. If you're in that dilemma, in that jam, why not just bet on it with a guy like Quinshon Judkins? So I guess I would go all rushing ladders on him, and I would throw Judkins in these SGPs.
I like it. Before we sign off, Joseph, is there any other things that you're really loving this week real quick on the way out?
Yeah, I think, just quick hitters, Dallas Goedert receptions. The Packers they have been bleeding receptions to tight ends, and they kind of like the opposite of a single coverage situation. They do not allow single coverage situations. And when the Eagles face non-single coverage situations, they throw it to Dallas Goedert at like a really heavy rate, like a top 15 rate in the NFL. So I really do think that this is a situation where Dallas Goedert might end up with like 10 receptions. He's going to end up getting a lot of receptions in this game. And so I fully think that. I think that Dalton Schultz has a really good matchup. I know that the Brock Bowers just slayed the Jaguars, but Dalton Schultz has been like a really good receiver at getting open. I think way more than you would think just off of Dalton. This is the week of tight ends is kind of where I'm getting at. I think that this should be National Tight End Week. I think that Dalton Schultz is in a really good matchup. I'm definitely high on him. I think that the New England Tampa Bay game, Drake May is in a prime position to take advantage of this defense, this very heavy pass funnel defense. I'm not real sure exactly who it's going to be through, but I think that the Patriots winning and having a good game is very possible. Travion Henderson also has a really good running back matchup for receiving, not for rushing. The Buccaneers have a very good run defense, but they have an awful running back receiving defense. And I think that this is a spot where you might see some good alt receiving lines from Travion Henderson.
You like receptions or yards or a little combo platter?
I'd probably do yards more than anything, but maybe a combo play. So I think that's pretty much where I'm at on the week. And then if you want any of my other takes, you can check out the Substack.
Yeah, I like it. Make sure you're checking that out. Making sure you're checking out Joseph's PFF Coach I Was Open route-based hero stuff. And then of course the Substack for sure. Jeremiah. What's Jeremiah's schedule like? Where can we catch more Jeremiah?
It's funny. I mentioned it a week prior, but get in on the defenses and kickers show that Chev and I do on Sunday night for Player Profiler. The beauty being we have our plays where we look ahead, but we're talking spread, opening lines, and we're talking over under. And part of that is actually informing what we have going on. It's funny enough that the way the conversation starts early week to end week, we had the Browns, their play defense, but we had the Jets on the other side prior to this trade, right? And we have this low over-under game. So it's just kind of funny how we have what we tell, and then in our betting world, we are on the other side where we're saying, well, if we could do a lower percentage play and hit this Jets alternate pass for Justin Fields, then it kind of goes against the Browns play. So it's really funny how you can have multiple angles in all the dimensions of the games that we play. So it's just funny. It informs what we do on this side. They each talk to each other. So I would just encourage people to Dynasty, redraft, spread leagues, DFS, betting, any iteration that at best ball, play it all, because I feel like it just sharpens what we do. So that's my pitch.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Until next week, we'll probably be back at a regular scheduled time and regular scheduled programming, and probably sans me. But until then, make sure you bet on it. Make sure you're following along with these guys. A lot of great information over there, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Good dogs.